All right, picture this. You open your phone, you scroll through your feed, and you see this alert. Developing. QB Aaron Rodgers, traveling to Pittsburgh. This weekend, expected to sign with Steelers. Your first reaction is probably, no way, this has to be fake. This has to be clickbait. But the more you look, the more it pops up, the more you start to realize something big might actually be happening here. So in this video, we are diving all the way into this developing story around Aaron Rodgers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and what could be one of the wildest quarterback moves in recent NFL history. We're going to talk about what's being reported, why this makes sense for both Rodgers and the Steelers, how this impacts the current QB room in Pittsburgh, what this would mean for the AFC North, and what kind of ripple effects it could have around the entire league. Stick with me, because if this goes down the way it's being framed right now, the NFL landscape is about to look very, very different. Let's start with what's being reported. The key piece is this. According to multiple emerging reports and league-connected whispers, Aaron Rodgers is expected to travel to Pittsburgh this weekend. Not for a casual visit, not for a charity golf outing, but with the expectation that he will meet with the Steelers front office and potentially finalize a contract. The phrase being thrown around is expected to sign, which usually means the heavy lifting in terms of framework, numbers, and years has already been discussed, and now you're in the phase where you iron out language, guarantees, physicals, and all the tiny details. So we're not talking about the Steelers might maybe someday think about calling Aaron Rodgers. We're talking about pack your bags. This could actually get done in a matter of hours or days once he touches down. Now, if you're a Steelers fan, this might feel surreal. For years, Pittsburgh has been associated with stability. Head coaches who stay forever, defensive identity, run game, physical football. And for a while, that stability at quarterback had a name, Ben Roethlisberger. Since he retired, the Steelers have been in that awkward in-between phase. On one hand, you've had young quarterbacks and stopgaps, guys like Kenny Pickett, veterans trying to hold it together, a roster that always seems too talented to fully bottom out, but not explosive enough on offense to hang with the elite teams in the playoffs. The end result has been that classic good but not great territory. But bringing in a name like Aaron Rodgers, that's not a small shift. That's a full-blown identity jolt. That's saying, we're not here to just compete, we're here to chase a Super Bowl right now. From Rodgers' side, this is absolutely fascinating. When you think about where he is in his career, we're talking about a future Hall of Famer, a multi-time MVP, one of the most gifted quarterbacks to ever pick up a football. At this stage, he's not ring-chasing in a desperate sense, but he absolutely wants another shot at a Lombardi. He's been through the Green Bay chapter, he's been in the mega storyline environment of his previous move, and now he may be eyeing one of the most storied franchises in NFL history. The Pittsburgh Steelers are not just another team. This is a franchise loaded with Super Bowls, a fan base that travels everywhere, and a defensive core that can still play at a high level. For an aging quarterback who doesn't want to be part of a full rebuild and instead wants to walk into a building where winning is the expectation, not the hope, Pittsburgh actually checks a lot of boxes. Let's talk fit, because that's where this gets really interesting. Think about Aaron Rodgers' strengths: pre-snap recognition, accuracy, ball placement, ability to extend plays, and one of the best deep balls we've seen in the last 2 decades. Now combine that with what Pittsburgh already has on offense. You've got talented young wide receivers who can win one-on-one matchups, a running game that, when it's on, can be physical and punishing, and an offensive line that's been gradually improving and adding pieces. Rodgers walking into that situation instantly elevates every single one of those weapons. Those intermediate routes that were just a hair late, suddenly they're on time. That deep shot that was once a 50-50 ball, now it's a well-placed dime. The red zone trips that stalled out become touchdowns instead of field goals. That alone can swing 2 or 3 games in a season, and in a conference as loaded as the AFC, 2 or 3 games is the difference between watching the playoffs from your couch and hosting a playoff game at home. But step back and think about the culture fit as well. Rodgers is known as a strong personality. He's competitive, he's vocal, he has his own way of doing things. Pittsburgh, under the leadership of Mike Tomlin, is one of the few organizations that can handle big personalities and still maintain structure. Tomlin is one of the most respected coaches in the league. Players constantly talk about how he keeps the locker room together, how he commands respect without needing to be over the top. Rodgers walking into a Tomlin locker room is not going to be some chaotic power struggle. It has the potential to be a partnership, a veteran head coach who has seen everything and a veteran quarterback who has also seen everything. You put them together, align them with a front office that is usually deliberate and not reactionary, and suddenly, this doesn't feel like a reckless move. It feels like a calculated push, all in. Now, what does this mean for the current quarterbacks in Pittsburgh? This is the uncomfortable part, but it has to be discussed. When a franchise brings in a superstar at quarterback, especially someone with Rodgers' resume, it sends a very clear message up and down the roster. If you're a young guy still trying to prove yourself, this is a wake-up call. The front office is telling you, we waited, we evaluated, and we don't want to wait anymore. For Kenny Pickett or any other young QB on that depth chart, this could mean a reduced role, a backup position, or even the beginning of the end of their time in Pittsburgh. You don't bring in Aaron Rodgers to have a quarterback competition. You bring him in to start, to lead, and to immediately change the ceiling of your team. There's also the locker room dynamic. A lot of these younger players grew up watching Aaron Rodgers dominate the NFC. Now, he's not just a legend on TV, he's standing in their huddle. That can be energizing. Guys prepare differently when they genuinely believe they have a real shot at a ring. The level of focus in practice changes. The belief on the sideline in a one-score game in the fourth quarter changes. Instead of hoping, you start expecting. You know that if you give Rodgers the ball back with 2 minutes on the clock and a timeout, you're not just alive, you're dangerous. That belief matters. It's intangible, but across a full season, it can absolutely be the difference between a team that folds under pressure and a team that thrives when the lights are brightest. Let's shift to the AFC North and the ripple effects around the league. The AFC North is already one of the most brutal divisions in football. You've got high-powered offenses, top-tier quarterbacks, and physical defenses. Adding Aaron Rodgers to that mix transforms the narrative yet again. Defensive coordinators who have spent the last few years game planning for mobile young stars now have to dust off old scouting reports and figure out how to limit a quarterback who wins with precision and timing as much as athleticism. It forces every other team in that division to reevaluate their own timelines. If you thought you had a 2 or 3 year window to grow with your young quarterback, suddenly that window feels squeezed. You're now asking, are we built to compete right now, or did the bar just get raised again? League-wide, a move like this sends shockwaves. Other veteran quarterbacks might look around and say, if he can make a jump like that this late in his career, what does that mean for me? Front offices start to think differently about the value of elite but aging quarterbacks. Instead of fearing the age, they may lean into the idea of a 2 or 3 year championship window with a proven veteran. At the same time, younger quarterbacks on rookie deals in less stable organizations may feel that added pressure, because the margin for patience shrinks when you know that a big-time veteran could become available and immediately change everything. We also have to talk about the expectations that come with this move. If Rodgers does sign with the Steelers, nobody is going to be satisfied with just making the playoffs. That's not going to cut it. The conversation instantly becomes, can this team realistically get to the AFC Championship game? Can they represent the AFC in the Super Bowl? On paper, when you add a quarterback like Rodgers to a roster that already has a tough defense and promising playmakers, it's hard not to at least entertain that possibility. But that also means the margin for error shrinks for everyone. Coaches, coordinators, position groups. The offensive play calling is going to fall under a microscope. Every drive that ends in a punt or a turnover will be dissected. If the offensive line struggles for even a stretch, it will be amplified by the fact that you now have a high-profile quarterback taking those hits. You don't get to hide behind the excuse of, we're still rebuilding when you bring in someone like Aaron Rodgers. You're signaling that the rebuild is over. Now think about the city of Pittsburgh itself. This is a football city. The energy around a move like this would be massive. Jerseys will sell out. Season ticket interest will spike. National media will camp out around the facility. Every primetime slot that the league can squeeze them into, they will. Suddenly, Week 3 in Pittsburgh is not just another game. It's an event. The Steelers, who already draw a huge audience, become one of the central storylines of the entire season. You're going to see camera shots of Rodgers walking into the stadium, clips of him talking to Tomlin on the sideline, slow-motion replays of deep balls to his receivers, all of it. The atmosphere in that stadium for his first home game would be electric. The kind of noise, the kind of anticipation, the kind of weight of every snap. It would feel like a playoff game, even if it's still September. From a schematic standpoint, you can almost start to imagine how this offense could be molded around Rodgers' strengths: more freedom at the line of scrimmage, more control over protections, receivers being allowed to make sight adjustments based on coverage that Rodgers can anticipate. The timing routes that he's made a living off of could merge with the physical style Pittsburgh loves to play. Imagine a drive where the Steelers pound the rock for a few plays, force the defense to creep up, and then, boom, Rodgers hits a play-action deep shot down the sideline. That balance is what stresses a defense. And when you combine that with a defense that can get stops, create short fields, or take the ball away, you've set the stage for a team that can win in multiple ways. A shootout if needed, a grinded-out defensive battle if that's what the game demands. Of course, you can't ignore the questions. Physically, where is Rodgers right now? Can he stay healthy for a full season at this stage? The Steelers' front office and medical staff will absolutely be asking those questions and more. That's where this weekend's reported visit becomes crucial. Physicals, medical evaluations, long conversations about role, workload, practice habits, all of that happens before ink hits paper. Both sides will want clarity. Rodgers will want to know what kind of protection he'll have, what kind of input he'll get in the offensive design, and how the organization sees this partnership evolving over the next couple of years. The Steelers will want to understand his expectations, his commitment, and how he will mesh with the young core they've already built. This isn't just about a name on a jersey, it's about fit, structure, and shared vision. But if everything checks out, if the medicals are fine, the contract structure makes sense for both sides, and the football philosophy lines up, then you could see this move transition from developing story to official announcement shockingly fast. A press conference in Pittsburgh with Aaron Rodgers at the podium, holding up a black and gold jersey, would instantly dominate every sports headline. You'd have endless debate shows arguing about where this puts the Steelers in the AFC hierarchy. Former players weighing in on how dangerous this team could be. Opposing fan bases scrambling to revisit their team's schedule and circle the week they have to deal with Rodgers in a Steelers uniform. So where does that leave us right now? We're in that tense, exciting wait-and-see window. The reports say he's traveling to Pittsburgh this weekend. The phrase "expected to sign with Steelers" is out there. That doesn't mean it's locked in until contracts are signed and officially announced, but it does mean there's real smoke. And usually, where there's this much smoke, there's at least some serious fire. As this story continues to develop, the key things to watch will be: first, confirmation that Rodgers has indeed arrived in Pittsburgh; second, any leaks or hints around the contract's potential structure; and third, comments or non-comments from Steelers leadership and Rodgers' camp. Silence can be telling. Sometimes, the quieter both sides get, the more likely it is that something serious is being worked on behind closed doors. If this move happens, the NFL is going to have a brand new storyline at the top of every conversation. Aaron Rodgers in black and gold, leading the Pittsburgh Steelers into a new era. One of the greatest quarterbacks of his generation, joining one of the greatest franchises in league history, with both sides looking to prove they still belong at the very top. The stakes would be enormous, the expectations sky high, and the potential payoff absolutely massive. I want to hear what you think about all of this. Do you like the idea of Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers? Do you think this makes Pittsburgh an immediate Super Bowl contender, or do you see more risk than reward at this stage of his career? Drop your thoughts, your reactions, and your predictions down in the comments. Do you think this actually gets done when he lands in Pittsburgh, or does something fall apart at the last second? And if you're a fan of another AFC team, how nervous does this make you if it becomes official? If you want to stay on top of every twist and turn in this story, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and have notifications turned on, because as soon as we get confirmation, whether it's a signing, a press conference, or even a sudden twist, I'll be breaking it all down here with updated details, contract numbers, and full analysis on what it means for the upcoming season. This is one of those moments that can reshape not just a team, but an entire conference. So stay tuned, keep an eye on the news coming out of Pittsburgh this weekend, and get ready. Because if Aaron Rodgers really does put on that Steelers jersey, the NFL is in for one wild ride.